Thank you very much. This is a topic of passion for me. As Lori graciously introduced me, I work at 𝐒𝐻𝐵 County College. That's my one hat. My second hat is in emergency preparedness. I'm very involved in my community, lifelong BRIC resident. I'm not going to tell you how many years, unless you all share with me. But emergency preparedness is something that is a passion of mine. My husband and I, we survived Sandy through all of the ups and downs. And I try to take that a little bit further into making sure that our community is as prepared as possible. I don't like to be known as the Debbie Downer, but it's an honest perspective. And that's what I hope that you will be able to leave this workshop with, just a couple things that you can think about how you can be personally prepared for any type of disaster. If you have any questions, please shout them out. Raise your hand. I identify as a person with hearing loss. So if you say something a little bit quieter, I may or may not. So you can just throw something my way or raise your hand. More than happy. I love interaction. So there are so many considerations that we have in our area about emergency preparedness, flooding, more recently, wildfires. So these are the things that we're going to bring to attention today. First and foremost, we want to talk about getting informed. Terminology. Terminology is so important. And that's not just something that we think about in our own families, but think about regionally. Being from Jersey, again, lifelong, we talk about soda, right? If you go to another area of the country, it's known as pop, right? Terminology counts, because if we're talking pop, I probably won't know what the heck you're talking about until about 10 minutes later. That's me. But terminology is important when it comes to disasters and emergencies. So winter storm watch and warning, winter weather advisory, high wind watch, hurricane warnings, severe thunderstorms, coastal flood advisory. These are more direct towards our region. Coastal flood advisory we probably will not see in Idaho, right? So we're thinking more about what is important for our region and how can we connect to it. So did you know that specific criteria for each of these designations depends on where you live? That's why there's different weather service areas. Mount Holly serves our area, but there's other regions throughout New Jersey that are specific. Regions that are unaccustomed to the harsh winter conditions may have a lower threshold for issuing a winter storm warning than a region that's used to being pummeled by the winter weather. Okay, so Maine is going to have a different threshold for their warnings and their watches than us. Why? They get more snow. This winter, we didn't see that much snow. So our advisories are going to be very different. If we go to Maine, we may not hear those same type of announcements. It's the National Weather Service that actually issues the winter weather advisories to indicate that their forecasters are expecting our region to get some type of snow, sleet, or freezing rain, but that it won't be dangerous enough to merit a warning. So we want to listen to those important messages from the National Weather Service. And the National Weather Service conveys that message to us in different methods. It could be through the news media, through news on television, through the radio, and that's how they're going to issue our messages. So storm watches and advisories are really designed to help give a heads up. They encourage you to be prepared for a storm. And typically, there is a specific amount of time. Now, if you are a person that likes to prepare, this is great, because we want to actually prepare for any type of event, whether it's winter or hurricane season. We don't want to say, oh, storm's here right now. Guess I better get my go bag together, right? That's not going to help anybody. So when you hear a watch or an advisory, that's your terminology to think, I better get ready within the next 24, 48, 72 hours because it's predicted that something is going to happen. It might just mean that, you know what, I'm going to stock up on my regular supplies for French toast, right? We all know that saying, getting ready for French toast. I need to get my bread, my milk, and my eggs. But if you have a disability, maybe it means that you need to get some extra supplies ready because maybe because of that storm or that event, you won't be able to get out for your medication. If you have a loved one with autism, what happens if the power goes out and they are relying on a communication device that is battery powered? You want to make sure that you have some preparation in case of those things. So we go back down to winter storm warnings. They're the most serious of these designations. They're going to say that there's something highly likely, more often than not, that warning, something is going to definitely happen. That watch and the advisory, it's kind of prepare, get ready. But that warning, it means that it's pretty much inevitable it's going to happen. And you're going to have a higher chance of seeing something that is hazardous, whether that's a lot of snow, icy conditions, and that you should pretty much cancel your travel plans. So that's winter. We can do the same thing when it comes to those coastal storms, okay? So we're still looking a coastal flood watch and advisory. It's not going to be as, it means that something is going to be, it could be coming. We're not saying it's definitely going to be hazardous. It's not until you hear a coastal flood warning that it's definitely something dangerous. Again, getting more personally informed. We're talking about different types of disasters. So most people who talk to me about emergency preparedness, they kind of automatically think about the weather because that's something that impacts them, or they may be more on their mind. But there's natural disasters, such as the weather. There's also technological and accidental. Can anybody think of an example of a technological or accidental? We've had a couple in the news recently. What about the train derailment, right? The train derailment that led to pollution. So that train derailment could be accidental. And, they had to evacuate. Terrorism. We kind of all know what that is. So the terrorism could be mass shooting. It could be another explosion, but that's what we're talking about, the three main types of disasters. Again, I'm not here to scare anyone. That's not my goal. But it's to think about there are different types of disaster situations. I love how Lori gave the example of the housekeeping about where your exits are, because not everybody does that. How many people go into a restaurant and look around to see how you can get out of that restaurant? Oh, okay. So we've got two hands up. It's good to know those things. How can you get out? Is it only one way, or are there multiple ways to get out? Those are the things that we look for. So, getting informed, what kind of disasters can affect our area? Hurricane, we do get tornadoes now, right? Many years ago, we didn't see that many. But tornadoes, you got the flooding, great. You must have been paying attention in school. Good job. Good job. What about something that just happened this past week? Okay, go ahead. Wildfires, right? Right, we're very close to the Pine Barrens, so wildfires. And those brush fires can be even really close to us. I know in the apartments right down the road, there were some fires going on. So we want to be prepared. We don't see tsunamis too often, right? We don't see tsunamis, but we do see fire campus or school security. There could be, we had some lockdown situations, shelter in place. And these are some of the disasters that can help us, or that can, affect our area. So when we're working or living with someone with a disability, particularly autism, we want to keep these things in the back of our mind that things can happen and how can we better prepare. So get informed. When there's a disaster call, do you want to evacuate or will you shelter in place? Okay. So in some cases, you may need to, especially at home, if something is happening where maybe there's a hurricane warning, where we're saying that we know a hurricane is going to hit, there might be a chance that you have to stay in your home for a couple days. So we want to think about what's going to happen. If I have to stay in my home for a couple days, am I prepared to do that? So again, do I have power? What happens if I lose power? Is my medication that needs to be refrigerated? Do I have those supplies necessary where I could have a battery backed up refrigerator or a cooling system that can keep those medications cool for up to 3 days? Or if I don't have that, do I have a place that I can go to where I know I can keep my stuff refrigerated? So we're always taking extra steps. So getting informed, how do people generally get emergency notifications? Let's talk just even about the weather. Everybody familiar with 𝐜𝐸𝐿? 𝐜𝐸𝐿 is a texting service that can be connected either to the county sheriff. That's one source. There's also a lot of municipalities, a lot of towns have their own personal 𝐜𝐸𝐿. It's the way that the emergency organization is going to contact you through your phone. So it's kind of like a 911 notification. That's one way. Does anyone here have a weather radio? The weather radio, what they do is they are tuned into giving you information from the National Oceanic Administrative Agency. I think that's what NOAA is. But they're the weather agency. It's a trustworthy source. Okay. Now, how many people have like satellite radio, like XM or Sirius? Anything like that, right? That's not going to give you notifications the same way that like WOBM or our local weather, okay? Because it's considered satellite. It's going all over the country. We're getting the same messages in New Jersey as they are in California. So that's not going to help us that much. But your local radio is going to help you out more. The same thing with the TV and radio. The TV is going to be a great way to keep in touch. Mobile alerts on your phone. Almost everybody has a mobile alert, or has a cell phone. So this is a great way from your township to stay connected about warnings with severe weather as well as those fires. Because I don't know, I was getting a ton of announcements with the Toms River fires. There were ones in Brick. There were fires all over, and we were getting notifications from the Ocean County Sheriff about where these fires were, whether you should stay away. That is a trustworthy source. Mm-hmm. What about Facebook? Do you think Facebook is trustworthy? Maybe. It might be. So if I were following Donald Duck on Facebook, do you think that's going to be a trustworthy weather or emergency notification? No. But what about the Ocean County Sheriff's Department? Yes. Okay. Or the Ocean County Department of Health and Public Safety? Yes. Okay. Even the Ocean County Library has a Facebook page, and they share a lot of information that is accurate, especially around code blue. That's the colder weather. They give lots of information. So you want to look for those county organizations that are going to be more trustworthy than others. Donald Duck, maybe not so much. Okay, and here we go. The Ocean County Sheriff is now using what they call their new Rave alert platform. You can text Ocean County to that number on there, And these slides will actually be posted, if I'm not, am I correct? This is gonna be posted on the Ocean County. Oh, maybe. It can be requested, it can be shared, okay? So you can text Ocean County to 67283 and you'll get Ocean County notifications. Another trustworthy contact is through the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office. So the Ocean County Special Needs Registry is a voluntary service. This is a really great service, especially for families and individuals with autism or who may have Alzheimer's. This registry identifies to the county that an individual with a developmental disability or an intellectual disability or Alzheimer's may need extra help in the event of an emergency where responders are going out to the home. So what they do is, remember I mentioned a little while ago about sometimes where sounds can be an irritation to some individuals with autism, the flashing lights. Through this program, the prosecutor's office sends out a message that if police cars or if some type of emergency responder were going out to the home, they would reduce those sirens, those alerts. Register Ready is designed more for planning. Now, people move all the time. People are born, they die. With this Register Ready program, this helps the emergency planners more so in the community to properly plan for shelter response, for what's needed. They can also help during COVID. They had access to this database that said, you know what, we have a higher population of individuals that are not able to transport themselves to go get their COVID shot. So they're able to say, oh, you know what, we need to do more of a mobile response in certain areas. So this is more like a planning ahead of time. The other one is the response. I hope that makes sense. But both of them are important. It's never going to hurt to apply for both of them. They're free. And your information is considered confidential. It's not shared with anybody else. This stays in the emergency planners. The other resource I want to point out is Smart 911. Smart 911 is a free program that is also connected, thankfully, to many municipalities and Ocean County. And I'll share a really quick story. I actually registered years ago with Smart 911. You create an online profile and you tell as little or as much information as you want. So I put in there that, I have a disability. I've also put in there, I shared that my husband has a disability. He uses a wheelchair. I shared in there a couple other things. I put my furry cat, I have furry kids. I have 3 cats and a bird. So I put in there about my pets. I put in there some information about, the color of my house, just in case there was an emergency. I didn't think anything of it after I finished my profile. Less than a year later, I used to work in Philadelphia. I used to commute early in the morning. So 3 o'clock in the morning, yes, 3 o'clock in the morning, I got up, getting ready for work, and I smelled gas. And I panicked because 3 o'clock in the morning, what's going to happen? And this can happen with anybody, but I quickly called 911 to report that there was a smell of gas in my home at 3 o'clock in the morning. And the person, the telecommunications, the dispatcher, said, Jamie, are you and Steve okay? Can Steve get out of the house? I didn't know who I called at 3 o'clock in the morning because I thought, how did this person know the name of my husband? I called dispatch, I called 911. Why are they saying Steve? They were able to tap into the 911 profile. They knew that my husband was in a wheelchair, and they said they were prepared when they called the fire department and said there's an individual in a wheelchair in that home. That saved time. So think about how we can do the same thing for individuals with autism. We can notify ahead of time and let those responders know that someone with autism is in the home. You have a house fire. It's very common for an individual with a house, in a house fire situation, an individual with autism to go to their safe place, which might be the closet. It might be under the bed. But with Smart 911, and you tell them that there's someone with autism in the home, they're going to start thinking ahead of time. Okay, if I don't see all of these people, maybe I better quick look into the closet or under the bed. Okay, so it's a great tool. I always share my personal experience because it shocked me. It wasn't until later on that I realized that it had worked. And it's completely free. And the Sheriff's Department also mentions this. There's another way to get informed. If you don't already have it, you can download the FEMA app and get weather alerts right onto your phone. You can also, there's a really great tool on here. If you are trying to get prepared for your emergency kit, you can actually keep a little list of inside this app of things that you need for your own unique needs. You can download the weather app from weather.gov. Again, this is another trusted source. So we're talking about making a plan. Making a plan is, in a disaster, can you do something? Can you make a plan that where you can stay on your own for a couple of days? Now, I used to look at this for 2 days, 3 days. I'm an overly over the head prepper. I have enough for 2 weeks, and that's me. That's just me because in case maybe my car, I live very, very close to the water. If my car were to be flooded, I only have one car. So I would be restricted into how much I could drive out. So I make sure that I have enough supplies for myself and my husband for 2 weeks. Anybody know those orange buckets that you get at Home Depot, the Homer buckets with the lid?
Yes.
Those are great. They're really cheap. I think they're like $5, $7. But you can actually put some of your supplies, if being in a coastal area, you can put your supplies in that Homer bucket, put the lid on, put duct tape around it, and it floats. Okay? So I have a basement. I have a Cape Cod with a nice sized basement in it. We've got 15 of those buckets sitting there. They've been there for a couple of years. After Sandy, we had to replenish, right? Those buckets, that's what I put my stuff in. But so we think about, do I have enough during any of those events that I can make it for a couple of days? And yes, I can make it for a couple of days. I've connected with some people that live close to me, family, but I also communicate with people that are outside of our area to let them know that I may need help. So it's good to have other contacts. My parents only live 1 block away from me. So if I'm flooded, what are the chances that they're going to be flooded too?
Yeah,
pretty good, right?
Yes.
So I don't depend on them for certain things, but I have some friends that live outside of Ocean County. So those are going to be good contacts because maybe in Monmouth County and Freehold, they're not flooded. So I can reach out to them, okay? It's even better if you can get out of state. So I have cousins that live they live right outside of Philadelphia. So they know that if I need to, and if I choose to evacuate, if I want to leave my home, they know that they could be called by me and say, hey, I'm coming over tonight because I need a safe place. I've also prepared so that my husband, we have his transfer equipment. We have some backup supplies, okay? So he uses a commode chair, when we're at somebody else's house. So my cousin has an extra commode chair so that he can use, because we don't want to get to somebody's house and then, you have to hold it for a week. That's not a good idea, right? So that's how far we think ahead. Okay. Now let's talk about somebody who may, for a family whose child has autism. What are some things that that your child cannot be without? Maybe that person needs to have their tablet or their smartphone because there's certain games on it that really help calm them down, or it's a communication device. Maybe, they can't be without it. So in my family, how many ugly sweaters do you get during the holidays from people who don't know what to get you, right? I don't want any more ugly sweaters, but gift cards that can go towards purchasing maybe an extra iPad or a backup device that I can leave in my safe place, okay? So that I know that when I evacuate, if I don't have that iPad with me, my child's not going to have a meltdown because we don't have it with us. So you want to create a support network of people that can help you in a disaster. Think of someone local, someone close, because if you have a house fire, okay, yes, then my parents who are a block away, they can help me. But if it's a flood, they're not going to help me. I need to think outside of my network, outside of my immediate network. Where can I go? In the county, outside of the county, and outside of the state. That's how far it's, you want to plan. It doesn't have to be done in one day or 1 week. Plan over time. Once you start to see these things happen, that's how your plan becomes developed. It's most important to let your support team, your supports know that they are on the list of people that you may reach out to. During Sandy, my very close friend was also my boss in Philadelphia, and there's an app that says, you can connect with them to say that you're safe or you need help. So I thought, there's no power. I didn't know what was going on. So here I am trying to connect with my friend Amy. Amy didn't respond to me. And I thought, some friend she is. There's an emergency going on and she's not responding back to me. It wasn't until almost 2 weeks later when I was able to get back in touch with Amy. She thought I was trying to play a game with her on Facebook. I never told her that she was my emergency contact. So she's like, I don't want to play this game. Needless to say, a lesson learned, right? So let your people know that they are going to be, possibly contacted, or you're going to show up on their front doorstep and be very surprised. True story.
Mm-hmm.
Now we laugh about it. At the time I wasn't laughing, but I laugh about it a lot now. Plan ahead for accessible transportation, because if you are evacuated, and maybe you can't use your own transportation, or perhaps you don't have transportation at all, is it the right transportation for you? So with my husband, we make sure that he has the appropriate, we have the appropriate systems in place. Do you need to reach out to some type of transportation system that is wheelchair accessible? Okay. So planning ahead, there are some individuals on dialysis. Is that going to impact what happens if services are down? So you need to contact your medical team, contact your treatment team, knowing, is there do you have a window where you don't need to have your dialysis treatment? Or is there another facility that you can go to if it's absolutely necessary that you have that? So this is all, again, planning ahead. If you use any medical equipment that requires electricity, talk to your doctor about what you might be able to do to keep it running during a power outage. Do you utilize a bed that is power assisted to lift, either the feet or the head? Do you utilize a ventilator? What happens when the power goes out and the battery backup only has a certain amount of time? Do you have appropriate generators? I always have my portable power packs. This is just for my phone. This will get me through 2 days. But I also have solar generators that are smaller. 2 of them that are like the size of a car battery. Those I know will operate my husband's breathing machine at night with no problem. And I can either recharge it as necessary to my car, or I can hook up the solar panel and recharge it. We have a larger unit that we keep constantly plugged in. It's also solar, but that will run our refrigerator, our freezer, a light, and a couple other small appliances. And that's so that we want to make sure that any medication that he has is refrigerated. So again, we reached out to doctors to find out, what could we do with, what could we do without, and what were our options. Right? Planning ahead too is, if you do need to evacuate, know whether or not, if you choose to use a shelter meaning an emergency shelter, does that shelter take pets? All shelters will allow access for service animals. In Ocean County, we are very, very fortunate because there are areas that pets will be allowed. I didn't evacuate during Sandy. Number one, I wanted to stay in my house, and I also wanted to make sure that my animals were with me. They're my children, right? But and that was a lesson learned during Sandy. There are now steps in place. If you do choose to use a shelter, there will be a separate area for pets. Service animals can go anywhere, but for pets, they have a separate area that you will have free access to. You can go in during designated times to see your pet, but they would not be with you in the general sleeping or gathering area. It's also important, in the event of a disaster, make sure that you have any medical alert tags or bracelets, excuse me, as well as if you have a communication disability. So if you're unable to communicate either verbally or maybe you need an assistive listening device, do you have the system that you need in place? Excuse me. Now we want to make sure we want to build a kit. So I talked about that, building a kit, basic supplies that you might need. You can go on the internet and find this at any time. But building a kit, when should you start talking about it? You can talk about it anytime. So every September is National Preparedness Month. If you don't start now, start in September at least. But National Preparedness Month, it's meant to start that conversation of how do you get prepared for an emergency? We want to develop a list. Now again, you can buy a kit and probably pay about $150, or you can start putting together a bag, a backpack, or a box, whatever's easier for you, and put together some supplies that you might have on hand, or things from the dollar store. So a Go kit is also known as a Go bag, an emergency kit, or a 72-hour kit. This is very different than what we would call that shelter-in-place kit. Remember I talked about those, the Homer bucket, the orange buckets? Those are for shelter-in-place. I'm not going to carry that bucket with me. But an emergency kit fits right inside of a backpack. These are the things that I feel I would need if someone said, you need to evacuate now. There's a gas line issue, you need to get away. So it's easy. I don't need to fill it up. It's already prepared for me. It's packed with essential or important items, and it's always ready. I have one in my car. I have one at work. I also have several in our home. I have one on the top level, I have one at the main level, and I have one in the basement. Because I don't know where I'm going to be and I just want to grab it. And you want to have one for each person in your family. Because I'm a vegetarian, my husband is not. I am not eating a can of Spam no matter what the emergency is. He loves Spam. I don't get it, but those are the things. I want to make it personalized for me. It's easily accessible. One bag per person. And one for home. If you're a school student, if you're a student at college, have one for school. I love the one that I have in my car because I know that in any weather, whether it's cold, if I break down in the middle of winter, maybe on the side of the road, or in the summer, maybe I get stuck, there's an accident on the parkway, I know that my emergency kit has the supplies that if I'm going to be there for some long period of time, I have portable pouches of water. I have snacks. I get migraines constantly, so I've got migraine medicine in there. Those are the things that are going to be important for me. So I'm not going to list all of the items. I'm not going to read this all off, but you can Google this. You can go on the internet and find all of these items that you may want to put into your own kit. So you want to think about, for anyone who has a disability or an access or a functional need, consider how that disaster is going to affect you. Again, not everybody has migraines. Not everybody may have a communication need and need a communication board. But you want to think of your needs. What do you need in order to be safe, be comfortable? Because if you do evacuate to a shelter, it's not the Hilton. It's not a nice place to, and anybody will tell you this. It's a large room with cots, with your essentials. It's a roof over your head. They're not going to have all of the home comforts that you're accustomed to. There won't be a chocolate on the pillow at night. There won't be somebody fluffing your pillow. It's a lot of noise. I know that for certain individuals, noises are can be very overwhelming. So for a kid, for someone with autism, they may want to have it in their either earbuds, earplugs, or a noise canceling headset, because you don't want to go hunting through the house to find it. It's already in your bag. And again, use it. This is just for an emergency, short term, for 3 days. 3 days will be fine in that kit. Okay, so we have a couple different examples of hearing and vision loss, things that you might want to put in that kit. That extra hearing aid batteries for someone with a hearing loss, maybe pen and paper to communicate. We keep a notepad so that messages, so that if I can't hear what's going on, I can use that pad, although my phone is most likely the better source of communication. Someone with a vision loss may want to have their supplies marked with Braille to help them find what they need if they are a Braille reader. This is always a great tool for anybody. If you do in your kit, put an extra charger, not just one of these battery pack ones, but how many times have you run out somewhere and you go, oh man, I'm running low and I can't plug into the wall? It doesn't take that much to grab an extra charger and throw it in your bag, because then you know that you can charge your phone. Okay, then we have some mobility considerations. If you are a wheelchair user, maybe another option is to think about having an extra wheelchair in a location that's, again, outside or within that network that we talked about. Maybe someone else down the street, someone outside of the county, someone outside of the state, and there's a lot of resources that can connect you with gently used assistive devices like canes, walkers, and prescription medicine. This can be a very touchy situation, because insurance companies pretty much have a hold on what you can get with your medication, right? If you have a good relationship with your doctor, ask if they have samples. Shelters are going to have many of the basic prescriptions that people would use. Blood pressure. They may have inhalers. Okay, they're going to have basic. But if you are on a medication, say to control seizures or a controlled substance, they're not going to have that immediately. The shelter workers, the emergency planners, and they actually have steps in place to reach out to the pharmacies and get you the medicine that you need, but it may not be there right away. So if you can talk to your medical professionals and see if they can get you a couple free samples to keep in your bag, and then rotate those medications out, because you don't want those medications to stay there for 5 years. Just keep on rotating those medications so that again, when you take that bag, you'll have at least 3 days supply of medicines. Okay. So then there's resources. Every single state has what's called an Assistive Technology Act program. This is really important for individuals who are using assistive technology. It could be mobility devices, so canes, walkers, communication devices that can help with vision or hearing. They're a great resource if you lose your device in an emergency, or it's lost, stolen, they can help connect you with other resources that may be able to assist you while you're waiting for your personal device to be replaced. So that's a great resource. Our program is located in Trenton, but there's a toll-free number. You can also contact the National MS Society. These are just some disability-specific organizations that might be able to help connect you, because you want to know what resources can help you out if you lose something in the event of a disaster. And again, these slides will be available. You can take them and share them. There's a resource guide specific for New Jersey. It's called New Jersey Pathways to Preparedness. It is a guide. There are, I think it's like 90 pages in here that take you step by step on how to plan for your own personal preparedness. You can request a copy from the New Jersey Statewide Independent Living Center. Their website is on the bottom there. But this guide is something that you don't fill out overnight. I've had families actually reach out to me and say, we do a game night and we fill in the blanks. So take your time, because you're thinking, and then your answers can always change, but you're thinking about what are your needs? What do I need to think in my area? How to be aware of what disasters could happen. Now, do I live close to the highway? Do I live where there's a lot of big trucks that maybe there could be an accident? Do I live close to train tracks? Do I live close to the water? These are all things that this book will literally walk you through step by step. And then get involved. This is really important, and I have a deep interest in really getting involved in our community, because as a person with a disability, I think it's important to share personal experiences, what works, what doesn't work. Because most of our responders, a lot of them have, their mission is to help keep us safe, right? Sure. But there are so many nuances, so many different, unique things that can happen for a person with a disability. Someone can be shouting messages to me, and I may or may not hear what's going on. I'm reading lips most of the time. So if you're giving me directions and you have a mask on, most likely I'm nodding and I'm piecing what I think you're saying. And I'm praying that that's what you're saying. So to share those personal experiences in your community with those responders. The Community Emergency Response Team, we have a team that's in Ocean County. There are announcements that go out regularly for free trainings on how to become personally more ready for disaster, and then how also if you wanted to volunteer in your community. The Red Cross, and of course the Ocean County Core Advisory Group, which is what I'm part of, where we talk about what are some of the concerns that can happen for individuals with disabilities in our community. Is there a transportation issue? Is there access to vaccines that people can't get? Maybe we need to have more of a mobile response. Communicating effectively with our deaf community. Providing print materials in large font, or in Braille. These are the things that we want to share as a whole community. These are just some, this was actually one of my first classes that I led. The upper left-hand corner is for the Ocean County Community Emergency Response Team. We had 2 individuals who utilize wheelchairs, and they are part of the training. And everybody has a skill. Everybody has something to share and contribute. The one gentleman in blue is retired from the New York Police Department, and boy, he could give directions like you would not believe. And that's what the team needed at that time during this training. So everybody has a skill and everybody has something to give. Hopefully, as a result of our discussion today, you are one step closer to being more personally prepared. I thank you, everybody, for attending. Feel free to contact me anytime. Email is best for me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Support public libraries. Like, share, and subscribe for more great videos.